Jesus has all authority, and he desires that we become his disciples. And that's Matthew 28, 18 through 20. All authority in heaven and on earth has been given to me. Therefore, go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father and of the Son and of the Holy Spirit, and teaching them to obey everything I have commanded you. And surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. I mean, that's reassuring. You know, I was just thinking the other day, I was with a client, and he's been attending church somewhat periodically. And I asked him what his favorite hymn was. And he said, I don't know. And I said, you know, my favorite hymn is What a Friend You Have in Jesus. And, you know, because he's going to church, I'm not really sure if he knows why he's going to church. And he's had a stroke when he was like 30 years old, so he's got some limitations. But sometimes, you know, it doesn't matter really how the intellect is, I find, working with different people. It doesn't matter, you know, sometimes that they have some physical illnesses that they can't control. It's spiritual. You know, even the most, I had to go work. I worked once for DMR, and I'll never forget it. It was up off Kennedy Drive, Alfred Park Road. I think it's over there. And I was just looking at a part-time job, and there were people in there who were so horribly entrapped in their bodies. And I go in the room, and there's Christian music playing. And it's like, and I went in there and I talked to this woman, and it's like she had cerebral palsy or something, and she was like this in a wheelchair. And just a smile on her face, you know, and I was just talking to her. She understood everything I was saying. I was talking in spiritual terms with her and talking about the music and everything else. And I was amazed at how many people there, maybe they had Christian staff there, but how many of these people who were so afflicted knew about Christ. You know, and I've had people who are so ill, you know, as far as mentally, but Jesus still comes through. They know that there's something better for them, that they know there's a reward for them. They just know that this life is temporary and this entrapment that they have. But God still uses them. I mean, I was like floored when I saw that, you know, as a believer, to just see, is this God's will for my life? To be in a wheelchair and crippled to the point that you can't even talk, you just have to mouth out words. It was a sobering experience. So we learn from Jesus, and we find rest for our souls. I can't grip this. Seeking the will of God means becoming disciples of Jesus Christ. It involves the role of the church. I mean, Jesus came to establish his church. Matthew 6:18. A lot of this is in Matthew, so. So that it will not be obvious to men that you are fasting. Am I in the right verse? Oh, sorry. No. 16:18. I'm worse than pastor.
You're just a little dyslexic.
Yeah, I'm just having a slow morning.
All right.
And I tell you that thou art Simon of Jonah. Oh, wait, where am I? And I tell you that you are Peter, and on this rock I will build my church. And the gates of Hades will not overcome it. I will give you the keys of the kingdom of heaven. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever is loose in heaven, on earth will be loose in heaven. We all have those keys. Every one of us has those keys. Those keys are the gospel. That's presenting the gospel to people. You know, how many times we talk to people, how many times do they have to hear it? I don't know, to me it seems that the world is just right now just spinning down the drain. And yet we have the answer, and part of our will that God has for us is to share the gospel, to show God's love to other people, and to really kind of get him involved with this church. Now the church is a community of disciples who obey Jesus. Acts 2:41 through 47.
Mike, before you go there.
Sure.
The last verse you just read, that's an extremely controversial verse.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. In that verse, when God says, and upon this rock, he is referring to himself or to Jesus. He is not referring to Peter.
He's the rock.
Yeah. Right.
And if you read, he's the cornerstone. The apostles,
And all through the Old Testament, God's referred to as the rock. Yeah.
he calls Peter, I think the name for Peter is his little stone, like a pebble. You grew up Catholic,
Petra
that's,
and Petros.
yeah.
Yes,
They
Peter.
use that, it's one of their famous, well, gee, what did Peter, he preached at Pentecost, but it was Paul that did everything else. Went out to the Gentiles. Jesus stayed with the Jews mostly,
Right.
preaching with the Jews. But you're right, that is a controversial verse. There's a few others that are similar to that the church uses to kind of validate their
That's how they
position.
validate the Pope.
Yeah. Yeah. Whatever you bind on earth will be bound in heaven. Whatever you loose on earth will be loosed in heaven. I believe that's part of prayer, right there. No man who, what is the name they call it? Not ex cathedra. Pontius Maximus, meaning Jesus Christ. He's God on earth. The Roman Catholic. The Pope. So, getting back to Acts 2, chapter 2. $241. $241.47. Those who accepted his message were baptized, and about 3,000 were added to their numbers that day. They, the fellowship of believers, devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to the fellowship, to the breaking of bread and prayer. Everyone was filled in awe, and many wonders and miraculous signs were done by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. Selling their possession and goods, they gave to anyone that had need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke the bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to the numbers daily those who were being saved.
Revival. Big time revival.
Yeah. Such obedience involves fellowship and assembling together, Acts 2:42, and Hebrews 10:24.
Hebrews 10:48.
Hebrews 10:24.
24.
What was the first one?
The first one was Acts 2:42.
Oh, 242.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Hebrews 10:24. And let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. Let us not give up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. So part of the process of knowing God's will is to meet together, to talk with one another, to encourage one another, to love one